Hey guys, my name's Colin and this is Colin Talks Crypto. As we all know, the fees on Bitcoin continue to increase. And as we get closer to the Bitcoin bull run peak, fees are going to continue to rise. The question I want to pose to you guys is this healthy for the long run sustainability of Bitcoin as an asset that is supposed to help mankind? Now, I know that there's the argument that Bitcoin is a store of value, and proponents of this tend to claim that high fees don't matter because when you're transacting in large amounts of value, a fee like $20 or $50 or $100 doesn't really matter. For example, if you're transacting in an amount of $1,000 or $1 million, those fees don't matter. But what I fear is that we are recreating the fractional reserve banking system one step at a time here. The first step to recreating the fractional reserve banking system on Bitcoin is by prohibiting its use for peer-to-peer transactions with low fees. The second you make it cost prohibitive to transact directly on the base layer of the blockchain, you introduce the necessity to rely and depend upon third-party or middle layer solutions. And what happens is that can lead to loss of true ownership of Bitcoin and dependence on a third party. And that is exactly what happened with gold when gold was given IOUs in the form of dollars that we use today. And eventually the dollars became withdrawn from that gold standard. And so here I have a clip from Daniel Larimer, who I think explains this best.
That the visibility characteristic is a function of what's the smallest transaction that you can do with say, a 1% fee or less, right? And it doesn't matter that you can divide Bitcoin to 8 decimal places if the smallest Bitcoin transaction you can do with a 1% fee is hundreds of dollars, right? And Ethereum, when the average transaction cost is $20. These types of things mean that unless you're transacting in big quantities, it's not divisible. In fact, gold coins are more divisible than Ethereum and Bitcoin, in that you can get 1/10 of an ounce of gold, about $200 worth. And that's something you can actually transact with without any transaction fees. You can't transact efficiently in $200 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum. So as Bitcoin and Ethereum grow, it's going to go the same direction gold went. It's all going to flow into the banks, whether it's an exchange or some other middle layer. And the banks are going to issue IOUs for the Bitcoin, and you're going to transfer it all around. And the average person is not going to own Bitcoin or Ethereum. They're going to have claims on Bitcoin and Ethereum denominated assets in exchanges. And then you start getting fractional reserve, and eventually the reserve disappears, and then Bitcoin just becomes a unit of account that's printed to infinity because the people don't realize that Bitcoin, or like the dollar used to be amount of gold, that a Bitcoin used to be one of these 21 million assets. And I see that that's the direction it's going to go. And it's going to go in that direction because the base layer is not scalable enough to allow the people to transact in it directly.
All right, guys, please let me know in the comments below, what do you feel about this? Do you think that high fees and an unscalable base layer, which prevents peer-to-peer transactions, will lead ultimately to a recreation of the banking system on Bitcoin itself, where we depend upon third parties and middle layer solutions, and you end up with people eventually not owning Bitcoin directly themselves? And I have to leave this one final remark because I know that the most common response to this video is going to be the phrase Lightning Network. People will just say Lightning Network as the utter complete solution to everything I've stated in this video. And I don't personally think that Lightning Network is the solution to this problem as it is presented, at least with the way that Bitcoin is currently designed. And I think that this is often due to a misunderstanding of how the Lightning Network operates. The creators of the Lightning Network itself, Joseph Poon and Thaddeus, have stated that Lightning Network operates optimally when blocks are not full and with larger block sizes. And the reason for this is because in the Lightning Network, you need to be able to open and close channels. And to open and close a channel requires a transaction on-chain. Now, if the fee to open or close a channel on-chain is $100 or $50, because that's what the fee is to make a transaction on Bitcoin, then it still prohibits the everyday person from creating channels, opening and closing them, and thereby owning their own Bitcoin. And they become just as reliant on this third-party layer 2 middleware. So I urge you to do your research before you offer up Lightning Network as a solution, because as Bitcoin is currently designed, Lightning Network is not a solution to preventing fractional reserve banking from being the ultimate outcome for Bitcoin. The peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin is being eroded, and we need to have a scalable base layer, just as Dan Larimer said, in order to prevent that from happening. Otherwise, I personally fear that we are going to, in the very long term, maybe in 10 more years, 20 years, 30 years, we are eventually going to see a situation similar to what happened with gold and then the dollar. Remember that took decades for the gold standard to slowly be removed. It's a very gradual and sneaky process of removing the backing asset from the IOU. And so if we don't scale the base layer, I think that is the inevitable outcome. And with that being said, please drop your comments in the comment section below and let me know what you think. And if you think that Lightning Network is the solution, please answer why and how based on how Bitcoin is currently. With 1 megabyte blocks and SegWit, we don't have a scalable blockchain as the blocks are already congested. So how does it work under that particular circumstance?